Hello again, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Meet La Prensa. Today's guest is Alexis Terrazas, the editor of El Tecolote, the community newspaper serving San Francisco's Mission District for 50 years. Alexis, you've always got so many things going on. Tell us about some of the projects you're working on right now.
No, gracias, Pablo, for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, so as you mentioned, last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary, making us officially the longest running, continuously publishing bilingual Spanish newspaper in the entire Southwest. El Tecolote.
Wow, that's like older than NPR.
Yeah, no, it is. Actually, I think is it older or it might be as old. But in addition to the newspaper, we roll it out every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, 10,000 circulation. Bilingual newspaper, meaning that every single headline, story, photo caption is in both languages, English and Spanish. And obviously right now we've been covering COVID. We've been covering the ongoing battle with the school districts here in San Francisco, the city attorney suing the school districts, and a bunch of other things as well. And in terms of like some of the projects we have going, it's really exciting because, as you know, we're in this digital age, right? And while we do have our newspaper, and while that is very valuable, and we have our website, we also recognize that it's really important to also step into this kind of digital realm of storytelling, you know? So I'm really proud to say that 2 weeks ago, we launched Radio Teco, which is our podcast, and which is going to be covering all things, you know, COVID, news, arts, and culture. And today's our second episode. And we've also kind of launched some videos that are hopefully informative to our community here in the Mission.
Wow, cool. Congratulations on Radio Teco. Can you tell us a little bit about the COVID vaccine? Can you tell us a little bit about the COVID vaccine rollout in the Mission and in San Francisco generally, specifically with regards to the Latinx community?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when in the midst of the pandemic, there were several, there was at least one big study that was conducted, which concluded that, and we already kind of knew this, like us Latinos in media and just in our community, we knew that the virus was disproportionately affecting our people. You deduce that a lot of our folks work in jobs that are essential, meaning you can't work from home. We live in multi-generational households most of the time. And because we are a working class community, we have to take public transit. All those things, basically pointed to high risk and COVID infection rates. Well, there was a study that was done that concluded that, of course, Latinos were disproportionately affected. And what we saw that community organizations and local hospitals and just grassroots efforts were actually stepping up where the city wasn't really, doing enough. And there was one partnership between the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, and the Latino Task Force that created, and San Francisco General, this Unidos en Salud, which is kind of undergone this massive testing effort, and now vaccination effort in the heart of the Mission District. But the thing is, what's really important is that we need to reach people where they're at. So actually, just recently, we launched a video that kind of told like our Mayan speaking community here the importance of getting vaccinated. And that has had an enormous impact. So it's really about meeting people where they're at.
Okay. I think one of the lesser known things about the Mission District is the person who represents it in Congress is actually Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The Mission in San Francisco and the northern tip of the San Francisco Peninsula is Nancy Pelosi's district. Let me ask you something, Alexis. Do you ever see Nancy Pelosi around the Mission? Does she visit?
Not that I've seen. Not that I've
Wow.
seen. There's a saying by one activist. I won't shout his name out because I don't want to put him on blast, but he's been
Sure.
He's been an incredible ambassador and really has been nonstop in terms of just driving forward this effort of having our most vulnerable people vaccinated. And it's we got us. Our community has to like come to bat for one another. And that's what we've seen. Everything from the Mission Food Hub at 701 Alabama, which is like this massive food distribution site, which distributes culturally appropriate food to our people with like not hot dogs and hamburgers, but beans, rice, vegetables, people like food that our people are accustomed to, in addition to testing and now vaccinations. So what we've seen, and I've been just really honored to be a journalist kind of like covering this stuff or having our paper kind of shed light on this, is highlighting the community effort, behind this, and that's what's really important, because we know that our people, believe many very different things, but you have to start with, like, it's not enough to just give people a link and click on this and go to this page. Sometimes you got to like walk them through these things, so that's what we're here to do.
Well, just hypothetically, let's say Nancy Pelosi wanted to come to the mission. What has she been missing out on, like, by not visiting the mission? Because I mean, when I say this, because when I was in the mission, when I visited you at El Tecolote, I asked the various vendors at the places. I think it was the pizza. I think it was the coffee, some of the burrito places that you guys recommended, and no one had ever seen her come through the district, which was curious to me. What would a Nancy Pelosi vision? Excuse me. What would a Nancy Pelosi visit to the district show her about the Latinx community? What would she learn?
That we're resilient, but that we also need help. Yes, we are a resilient people. From the mission has been a place, for those who don't know, has been greatly impacted from the very beginning with redlining, the lack of investing. So what you have is a community that basically has built itself, and through the years, I don't want to go too deep into this, but now you have several waves, whether it be the .com or the tech boom, which has made it really high priority real estate. And even now, as you see these stories of tech residents leaving the city, people, the community that built that place are still there, and so while we are a resilient people, we do need help. So I think that's what, if there is a message to that, is just that, funding for test sites, for food distribution, rent relief, whatever it might be, those are things that we need, not just right now, but even past COVID-19.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I, for one, have gotten kind of headed up to here with hearing about the grievances of tech workers leaving San Francisco, because I think you're absolutely right. The city's lifeblood is now and has been for a lot longer than high technology, than the arrival of high technology in the region, been one of people of color, especially the Latinx community down there in the mission. So Alexis, let me ask you, why journalism? What got you into it? Like, what keeps you motivated?
It's been the most rewarding most rewarding job I've ever done. And I think I put it this way: journalism discovered me when I was a senior in high school. And at first, I just thought it was really neat to be able to have people trust me with telling their story. But when I discovered, when I was at when I was doing my education at SF State, I really recognized the power in community media specifically. Because I know the mainstream, and I had ambitions of working in mainstream media. But what I feel is kind of missed is that there is this accepted narrative of what is, and especially when that comes to different communities of color. For example, there is this narrative right now that Latinos don't want to get vaccinated. In fact, there was a study recently done in the mission that kind of saw that they asked of essential workers, they asked them, like, if you were offered the vaccine, would you take it? And 86% said yes. So I think for me, it's not enough just to tell two sides or both sides of the story. You have to first identify and tell the story, the side of the story that is least often told, and for me, that's what makes journalism so valuable and so powerful, that you can, you have the power to tell the story of a community that historically been silenced. And at the end of the day, if that makes an impact, that is incredibly rewarding. And that's what it's been for me.
On the media beat, I think a story that is too often not told is of the underrated news workers in journalism, the people who really keep things going, the people who keep us on track, the people who really are the lifeblood of the industry. Who would you say right now are the most underrated workers in the news business?
Ooh, you know what? I think I hope there's no wrong answer. But I would say, honestly, when I see these photographers out here documenting things, and I say this not as a photographer myself, because I've been producing this newspaper from the comfort of my home. I don't necessarily have to go out and when I want to interview somebody, I could call them up via Zoom. But photographers don't have that luxury. Photographers are the ones from the very start, a year ago when this pandemic started or when the lockdown started, they were the ones out here going out, risking their safety to document this historical moment. And through years in the making, I felt like photography has really been devalued or de-emphasized as an essential part of a newsroom. But to see, the photographs, whether it be, a portrait series on nurses, or the volunteers with Unidos en Salud that we see here in the mission, which we did publish like a whole center spread at the end of 2020, thanking them for their efforts, or portraits of a porter at San Francisco General who cleans up the COVID-19 wards. You have to remember that our photographers are putting themselves at risk to bring us those images and to document those moments in history. So I would say, just from there, I'm a little biased, but I would say that it's our photographers that have to be on the first lines of documenting history. So hats off to them.
Absolutely. That's not a job you can call it in. You got to be there on the scene. So Alexis, that's about all the questions we have for you. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to say that, as a journalist, and Pablo, you've worked for us covering the insurrection or the riot at the Capitol. And I want to just say that we have a monumental task and responsibility as members of the media to try to, restore trust in newsrooms and journalists. We have been viewed everything as like the enemies of the people. But even now, during this crucial time when our different communities of Black, Indigenous, and communities of color continue to be heavily impacted, disproportionately impacted by this virus, it's our community newsrooms who are going to bring them this information and news first. So I feel like the fight to restore trust amongst, from our newsrooms to the general public is just really important. And it starts with all of us continuing to do the really important work that's in front of us.
Absolutely. Great answer. Thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.